Proper feeder sizing for a 200 amp subpanel involves several steps, all guided by the National Electrical Code, specifically section 310.16. Firstly, determine the load calculation. This involves calculating the connected load of all equipment and circuits within the subpanel. You'll need to refer to Article 220 of the National Electrical Code for guidance on accurately calculating these loads. This article provides the methodologies and requirements for determining the total electrical demand. Secondly, apply demand factors. Demand factors, as specified in National Electrical Code Table 310.16, are crucial for reducing the calculated load. These factors account for the diversity of usage, acknowledging that not all loads will operate simultaneously at their maximum capacity. The specific demand factor will vary based on the type and number of loads connected to the subpanel. For example, lighting loads may have a different demand factor than motor loads. Thirdly, add non-continuous loads. Non-continuous loads, as defined in National Electrical Code 310.16, are those that do not operate for 3 hours or more continuously. It's important to add these non-continuous loads to the total load calculated thus far. Examples of non-continuous loads include air conditioners, range hoods, and similar appliances that cycle on and off. Fourthly, calculate the feeder ampacity. This is the minimum ampacity the feeder conductors must be capable of handling. You can determine this using the following formula: feeder ampacity equals total load divided by voltage. The voltage used in this calculation depends on the type of subpanel. For a single-phase subpanel, the voltage is typically 120/240 volts. For a 3-phase subpanel, the voltage is commonly 208/120 volts. Ensure you use the correct voltage for your specific installation. Fifthly, select feeder conductors. Based on the calculated feeder ampacity, choose conductors that meet or exceed this rating. The conductors must be appropriately sized to safely carry the anticipated current. Consider the type of conductors, such as copper or aluminum, and the installation method, whether in conduit or cable tray. Copper conductors generally have a higher ampacity rating for a given size compared to aluminum conductors, but aluminum conductors are often more cost-effective. The installation method also affects the ampacity rating, as conduit can affect the heat dissipation of the conductors. For example, consider a calculated load of 150 amps, a demand factor from Table 310.16 of 0.8, and a non-continuous load of 50 amps. Using the formula, the feeder ampacity would be calculated as follows: 150 amps times 0.8 plus 50 amps, which equals 170 amps. Therefore, you would need to select feeder conductors rated for at least 170 amps. In this example, you might choose 2-phase conductors and 1 neutral conductor, each rated for 200 amps, to provide ample capacity and ensure safe operation. Remember, it is crucial to always consult with a licensed electrician. A qualified electrician can ensure proper sizing and installation of feeders. Refer to the specific requirements outlined in National Electrical Code section 310.16 for more detailed guidelines and regulations. Ignoring these guidelines can result in dangerous situations such as overheating, electrical fires, and equipment damage. When calculating loads, consider all permanently connected devices. These may include lighting circuits, receptacle circuits, and dedicated circuits for appliances. For lighting circuits, calculate the load based on the fixture wattage. For receptacle circuits, consider the potential load that could be drawn from each receptacle. For dedicated appliance circuits, use the nameplate rating of the appliance. When applying demand factors, be aware that these factors are based on statistical averages. The actual load in the subpanel may exceed the calculated load if usage patterns deviate significantly from these averages. Therefore, it is often prudent to provide some additional capacity in the feeder conductors to account for potential future loads or unexpected usage patterns. When selecting conductors, consider the ambient temperature in which the conductors will be installed. Higher ambient temperatures can reduce the ampacity of conductors. You may need to upsize the conductors to compensate for the effects of high ambient temperatures. Consult the ampacity correction factors provided in the National Electrical Code for specific guidance on this issue. Also consider voltage drop. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction and reduce the efficiency of the electrical system. To minimize voltage drop, select conductors with a larger cross-sectional area. The National Electrical Code provides guidelines for calculating voltage drop and recommends limiting it to a certain percentage of the supply voltage. The grounding and bonding of the subpanel are also essential for electrical safety. Ensure that the subpanel is properly grounded and bonded to the main electrical panel. This provides a low impedance path for fault currents, which helps to protect against electrical shock hazards. Follow the National Electrical Code requirements for grounding and bonding to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system. When installing feeder conductors, use proper wiring methods and techniques. This includes using appropriate connectors, supports, and enclosures. Avoid damaging the conductors during installation, as this can compromise their insulation and reduce their ampacity. Follow the National Electrical Code requirements for wiring methods to ensure a safe and compliant installation. Furthermore, ensure that all electrical work is performed by qualified personnel who are familiar with the National Electrical Code requirements. Improper electrical work can be dangerous and can lead to serious injury or property damage. It is important to verify that the subpanel is properly labeled to indicate its voltage, ampacity, and the loads it serves. This helps to prevent confusion and makes it easier to troubleshoot any problems that may arise. Overcurrent protection is another crucial aspect of feeder sizing. The feeder conductors must be protected by an overcurrent device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, that is sized appropriately for the ampacity of the conductors. The overcurrent device will trip or blow if the current exceeds the rated ampacity of the conductors, preventing them from overheating and potentially causing a fire. The National Electrical Code provides detailed requirements for overcurrent protection. Coordination of overcurrent devices is also important to ensure that a fault on a branch circuit will trip the branch circuit breaker before the feeder breaker trips. This helps to minimize the disruption caused by a fault. Select overcurrent devices with appropriate interrupting ratings to handle the potential fault currents at the installation location. The interrupting rating is the maximum fault current that the device can safely interrupt. Ensure that the interrupting rating is sufficient for the available fault current, which can be determined by a short circuit study. Regularly inspect and maintain the subpanel and feeder conductors to ensure they are in good condition. Look for signs of damage, such as cracked insulation, loose connections, or corrosion. Repair or replace any damaged components to prevent electrical hazards. Thermal imaging can be used to identify hot spots in the electrical system, which may indicate loose connections or overloaded conductors. This can help to prevent potential problems before they escalate. Keep accurate records of all electrical work performed on the subpanel and feeder conductors. This includes documenting the size and type of conductors, the ampacity of the overcurrent devices, and the load calculations. These records can be helpful for future troubleshooting and maintenance. When making any changes to the electrical system, always obtain the necessary permits and inspections from the local authorities. This helps to ensure that the work is performed in accordance with the National Electrical Code and that the electrical system is safe and compliant. Consider future load growth when sizing feeder conductors. It is often prudent to provide some additional capacity to accommodate potential future loads. This can save the cost and inconvenience of having to upgrade the feeder conductors later. Energy efficiency should also be considered when sizing feeder conductors. Larger conductors have lower resistance, which reduces energy losses due to voltage drop. This can result in significant energy savings over the life of the electrical system. Use energy-efficient lighting and appliances to reduce the overall load in the subpanel. This can help to minimize the required feeder ampacity. Consider using demand-side management techniques to reduce peak demand. This can involve shifting loads to off-peak hours or using energy storage systems to reduce the amount of power drawn from the grid during peak periods. Harmonic currents can also affect feeder sizing. Harmonic currents are non-sinusoidal currents that can be generated by electronic devices such as computers and variable frequency drives. These currents can increase the heating of conductors and transformers, which may require upsizing the conductors or using a K-rated transformer. Power factor correction can improve the efficiency of the electrical system. A low power factor can increase the current drawn from the grid, which may require upsizing the feeder conductors. Power factor correction capacitors can be used to improve the power factor and reduce the current drawn from the grid. Transient voltage surge suppressors can protect the subpanel and connected equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning or other events. Voltage surges can damage sensitive electronic equipment and can even cause fires. Regularly test ground fault circuit interrupters and arc fault circuit interrupters to ensure they are functioning properly. These devices can protect against electrical shock hazards and can prevent electrical fires. Use appropriate personal protective equipment when working on electrical systems. This includes wearing safety glasses, gloves, and insulated tools. Always de-energize the circuit before working on it, and verify that it is de-energized using a voltage tester. Follow lockout/tagout procedures to prevent the circuit from being accidentally re-energized while you are working on it. Stay up to date on the latest changes to the National Electrical Code. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years, and it is important to be aware of the latest requirements. Attend continuing education courses to stay current on the National Electrical Code and other electrical safety standards. Work with a qualified electrical contractor to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with the National Electrical Code. An experienced contractor can provide valuable expertise and guidance. Remember that electrical safety is a shared responsibility. By following these guidelines and working with qualified professionals, you can help to ensure that the electrical system is safe and reliable. The NEC is not a design manual. It is a safety standard. While following NEC guidelines, remember to also consider industry best practices and engineering principles for a well-designed electrical system. Always prioritize safety when working with electricity. Electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. Conduct regular safety audits of the electrical system to identify potential hazards. Address any hazards promptly to prevent accidents. Promote a culture of safety in the workplace. Encourage employees to report any safety concerns and to follow safe work practices. Provide regular safety training to employees to ensure they are aware of the hazards associated with electrical work. By prioritizing safety, you can create a safer work environment for everyone. Regularly review and update the electrical safety program to ensure it is effective. A comprehensive electrical safety program can help to prevent accidents and injuries. Consider using arc flash hazard analysis to determine the potential arc flash hazards in the workplace. An arc flash hazard analysis can help to identify the appropriate personal protective equipment and safe work practices. Implement an electrical safety management system to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with the National Electrical Code. An electrical safety management system can help to improve electrical safety performance and reduce the risk of accidents. Consult with a qualified electrical safety consultant for assistance with developing and implementing an electrical safety program. An experienced consultant can provide valuable expertise and guidance. Remember that electrical safety is an ongoing process. By continuously improving the electrical safety program, you can create a safer work environment for everyone. In summary, always consult the latest edition of the National Electrical Code and seek guidance from qualified professionals for specific applications. This information is for educational purposes and does not constitute professional electrical advice. Safety first, always.